All right. I didn't record any of those early critiques. Sorry about that, everybody. So what I did is I did a little drawing for you, and I was just goofing around, just thinking, how could I make this a little more perfect, a little better, um, and I'm realizing that I'm not going to be able to draw over this, but that's okay. So the first thing I did is I just used a 3x5 uh, uh, card, those little note cards you can buy at Walgreens anywhere. It's just 3x5. And 3x5 is close enough to the aspect ratio of 16:9 that you're not going to get into too much compositional trouble. First thing I did was just lay down the focal points. You can see where I put these little X's right here. And I just thought, I'm going to draw this first volcano right here.
We can't see your screen yet.
But you can't see my screen.
Yeah. There we go.
There we go. All right. So yeah, 3x5. Let's say business card. Just a 3x5 card you can get at Walgreens. And the first thing I did was put down those focal points, just where, remember that when you're doing that, that divides your screen up into 9 equal parts. So if I draw the lines through any one of these particular rectangles should be exactly 16:9. And I wanted to get this volcano as close to that focal point as I can. And I think the reason why I was doing this was because I was just, you can go look at my effects board on Pinterest, and you can see that I added a couple of things in there. And one of them was this wispy smoke thing. And I wanted to actually go over that today about how you would animate this, and do it very easily, actually. And because of that, I thought it would be kind of interesting to have 3 different kinds of smoke for this volcano project, which is, it's not too late if you wanted to jazz yours up. But I think that you have to kind of think about it in terms of composition. First of all, anything that's in the foreground, I made really dark. So I got this volcano and I put a line on it. And then the other volcanoes that were back here got a little less intense. And then this big one back here is even lighter, and as it goes off into the distance. It's supposed to be some leaves of trees that are right up close to the camera. So I drew this little wispy smoke right here, and I fit it right in there. And I don't think I had any other sketch. I was just drawing right on the card. And then from this one, I was using my more bulbous clouds, and remembering that this is now really easy to track. Key number 1, key number 1, key number 1, key number 1. Same thing, key number 1, key number 1, key number 1 breaks into 2 little parts. Lightning, great. All right, so that sets into play a couple of things. One is that this fire is burning a tree that's downed right here. And this smoke is different now. This is more smooth exterior curved, if you will. And you just have to follow your nodes. And again, you plan this out, that this wisp right here is going to be drawn with maybe 12 drawings. This is 12 drawings, and maybe this one, which is right up in front of the camera, might use 24 drawings. Or you go the opposite. You use 6 drawings and get it to cycle on 4s or something like that. So I just thought that it would be interesting to introduce the idea of wispy clouds, really thick, acrid, volcanic smoke in the background, with open spaces in them, and then a different kind of smoke coming from the fire itself. Then this allows for the projectiles in this volcano back here, and then this one was just not doing anything. There's also lava right here. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 effects just in this little shot right here. And again, I did this drawing quickly. I didn't mess around too much. And I think the reason why I did this was because someone last week had prompted, there was a question just about where they were going to put their water splash. And so I was just kind of thinking to myself, maybe I'll do another key, aside from the drawing that I already have and that I already shared with you. You know, I was thinking to myself just on this drawing right here, which you don't need to really see too much, but I was just thinking, okay, water splash. You know, what is the water splashing? It's going to be a projectile hitting the water. And what is that projectile? Is it a large piece of hail? Is it a meteorite? Is it what is it? And it doesn't matter. It just, on this particular drawing, I have it coming in from an angle. So I have this meteorite coming in from an angle, and that changes the trajectory of the splash. So our water splash just did this, you know, it just did a regular splash. This one, it splashed more off to the side, which to me I thought was a little more interesting. And then I think the other complexity was that I was thinking of, and again, it's just like on the other focal point, just about mud bubbles and making sure that the composition looked interesting. In this drawing, in this little sketch, there's rain. So there's little tiny water splashes. And then there's a lighthouse in the background on the left focal point over here. And that would work for your orb. That would work for like beams and orbs. So I'm still working on that one. I haven't quite finished it yet. But what I thought I would do, actually, let me jump over here and do attendance for you. There's a bunch of you that are absent. Daniel, are you here today? Daniel.
No.
You're not here? Okay.
No.
Rip.
Okay. All right, I'll fix that in a second. All right, so did I miss anybody? Just for, I see that there's someone in the chat.
Here, I'm Lindsay. Sorry, I'm
You're late.
late.
Okay. Okay, gotcha, Jesse.
Lindsay, right?
Well, I said Jesse, but Linksy, yeah.
Yeah, I'm Lindsay.
I don't see your name. There we go. Okay. All right. So, Linksy, do you want to just share your screen with us so that we can?
Yeah. See. Here. Can you see that?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, it's very wild. There's a lot of movement in the middle, which is fine. They don't all have to be the same as my demo.
Yeah, I can close the wild one and just show this one.
No, you don't. No, I see it. You're doing the right thing.
Oh, okay.
Well, one suggestion would be is that there's just a couple of things I can see that you've planned on, and one is that the little rotation of the clouds is actually going up from the bottom towards the top of the tornado, which is fine. It's a good thing. But you've got them roughed in on this blue level. that, it's really hard to see it. So, I think it's working. But if my advice would be is just to go back in there and figure out a way to draw the same silhouette, the same basic shape that you have, but
Okay.
without all the interior construction lines.
Okay.
And then you can handle getting another set of clouds that are spinning around the core really closely, and then another that are a little further away. And then you've got the upper atmosphere stuff to work on too. So your debris is starting to work pretty well. Remember not to do the same exact arc everywhere.
Uh-huh.
You want a little bit of variation, a little bit of variety, so that at any given particular trajectory that it's a little different, or that there's one that comes right up towards camera, right?
Uh-huh.
And that maybe this one just falls a little short. Maybe there's another one that goes a little farther over here, just for variety is shape,
Okay.
just for
Okay.
variety's sake. All right, that would be my advice.
Okay.
And now I can't figure out how, oh, there we go. Okay, yeah, you can stop sharing.
Okay.
Thanks, Linksy. Did I miss anybody yet?
You haven't checked out mine yet.
Okay, share screen.
Just setting everything up, but let me.
Okay.
Blah, 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 blah. Here we go.
Yeah, let loop.
Yep.
Okay, I think you're in a good place here. My only advice before you go any further would be is, and this is just a thing from experience, if you will. But you go ahead and stop the playback.
Yep.
So I think that what you've got is actually working pretty well. But what we may want to experiment with in all these frames is maybe trimming. Just trim it down just a little bit. So, because I think you've got a little bit too much girth down here. So start out the same, and then just trim a little bit off the middle and the bottom. It'll make it look a little bit more ominous.
Gotcha.
So, and keeping the same timing and everything, just bring these lines in a little bit.
Okay.
And it's not an absolute critical thing, but I think it'll just make it look better.
Okay.
And I think that one of the reasons for that is that if you go researching tornadoes, there's these guys, right? There's really, really thin tornadoes. And then you've got the ones that are just like mammoth. Those are the ones that just hit the ground, and there's so much stuff moving around it because this is like 300, 400 feet in diameter. These are the ones that are super destructive. They're crazy. And this stuff doesn't move around very much. This just goes, and the one kind of a volcano that is the most dangerous is the one where this trajectory just goes for miles and anything in its path. And it maybe go from this orientation here like this to maybe a different orientation a few minutes later.
The Goliaths.
That, and then it just switches to this and it's still going. It's like, those are the worst. I lived in Ohio for 17, 18 years. I saw a bunch of tornadoes in the greater Cleveland area, but nothing was ever, my house never got hit or damaged. Occasionally here in September, you'll see a tornado in San Francisco Bay Area.
San Francisco?
Yeah,
Okay.
you'll see occasionally. All right, so what I'd like to do right now is I'm going to go backwards just a little bit, and then I think this should be helpful to everyone. But what I'm going to do, I think I need to switch out my Toon Boom. Yeah, because I already did this one. You already got your instructions. Oh, and I did that little drawing for you last week, so I'm surprised that oh no, you know what? I added that later. Remember what I was doing was trying to figure out how to bring JPEGs into Toon Boom Harmony, and it's one of those strange things where if you work with Photoshop, InDesign, Illustrator, After Effects, and you get like an Adobe kind of mindset on things, that your hands remember all the keyboard shortcuts, and your intuition is like, oh, I know how to do that. And then you just kind of, even though you've never done it in Illustrator before, you go and you just know how to do it. And so there's like this thing, this like mindset. And so in Harmony, I was at File, Import, and go find an image. But for some stupid reason, the people in Montreal, our Harmony people, which are great people, decided that in order to bring in a JPEG, it was a different thing. Because if you wanted to bring in a Photoshop document, it's just import, and you just bring in the Photoshop document. You just bring it in. It's just, and it shows up right there, and it stays as a Photoshop document. If you've ever worked in InDesign, you can bring in PSDs into InDesign and then just right click. Like here's an example right here. I'm working on doing a bunch of Photoshop work for this independent film I'm working on, The Jinx of Hecate. And this is InDesign, and this is Photoshop document 098. So you can just right click and say, open with Photoshop. And then I do all my photo manipulation in Photoshop, save it, and then I use InDesign as a layout tool. And so inside this InDesign document, there are 100 Photoshop documents, if that makes any sense, right? And I don't do any versions or variations. If there are levels or things I need to turn off in my PSD, then I just do it that way. And so that works the same way. Harmony works the same way with Photoshop documents. But instead of the Photoshop document living where it was, are you paying attention? Daniel, are you listening? That Photoshop document is now imported into that Toon Boom folder, and you manipulate it there. It copies it and puts it in its own folder inside that massive Toon Boom folder. And it's a great idea, but it's always a source of problems if you don't get things absolutely correct. So in order to bring in a JPEG, like let's say that you wanted to do a really detailed drawing, and like I just took this with my phone, and I'm going to bring it into Toon Boom, and I'm going to scale it so that it fits into the, you can see the picture, you can see the stage kind of sort of clearly. See it right there? See the little stage? So I'm just going to orient it like here. Yeah, now it's chugging on me. Hold on a second. So it's almost centered right now. Almost. Yeah, so if I just leave it like that, and it lives as a image, and so this image that came out of my phone was an HEIC file, and an HEIC file is a high efficiency image file format. It's just, it's the stuff that comes off your phone is not a JPEG. It's not a PNG, it's not a Targa, it's an HEIC file. So, but in order to get that into Toon Boom, I know Daniel's like, Billy, get to the point, geez. You have to bring up window and then X sheet, and then you'll get this little fly up window here. Now, I know that some animators love working with this X sheet, and it is a very traditional way of working. And I was the sheet master at Colossal Pictures. I was a sheet master at Wild Brain. If there's anything I understood first and best was how exposure sheets worked. You know, I mastered them right away, right straight away. There was no hesitation. And so I love this, how this X sheet is working. But there's a problem that if you try to start manipulating the timing and the leveling within the X sheet, it doesn't work as it does down here in the timeline. So this is just, it becomes ancillary. So here you see this image 3480, which is right out of my phone. And in order to get an image into Toon Boom, you just click anywhere. So I'm just gonna pick this little level right here. You click anywhere and right click and then just say import images. I'm recording this right now, so I'm just pausing for a moment. And you think that this isn't any different than if you just say file import images, but it's not the same thing. If you just say right click, import images into the X sheet, that's how you get a JPEG into Harmony. All right, everyone okay with that idea? All right, so having said that, what I think I want to do is concentrate on this little wispy smoke right here. So actually, what I'd like to do is get set up to do this. So take a short break. Take a short break. I'm going to pause. Record.
Sorry, I can't hear you. Are you mute?
Sorry, I was muted.
Yeah.
Sorry about that. All right. So I was just saying that what I'm doing is I wanted to make sure that sketch was centered, and I'm going to do a little drawing right on top of it. I'm going to put this either away, or I'm just going to make it very opaque or whatever. But I think I just need to get this little drawing here. All right, so I just checked my pencil tools. What I'm going to do is this is a new file for me. So I'm just gonna work with this unbelievable green here. And I'm just gonna call this keys, spell it right. Because it's gonna show as much contrast above the drawing as possible. All right, so just with my first frame selected, I'm just going to, keep thinking I'm in Photoshop. I'm just going to copy this drawing here, and I'm going to rotate my stage. And so this is, it feels nice in my hand like this. Again, pencil, a pencil has one set of points down the middle of the line. Brush has points on the outside. So I'm just gonna faithfully copy my little sketch. All right, so I can tell what I was thinking here was that I knew that this was my main keyframe. It's a nice drawing. It's working. But I was thinking to myself, hey Billy, how is all of this smoke going to loop? If there was just nothing that comes out of this little non-dormant volcano and it becomes this little set of spirals here, do I want to have one articulated piece that animates into it and then out of it? It might make sense to think about this whole area here being this whole area right here. So let me just switch colors for a second. So just on this first keyframe, I'm gonna keep this in mind. So this whole little loop right here and this whole little loop have to come from somewhere. So it might make sense if I pick an area like this. So that as a key, it's going to animate into this position. And therefore, this little piece here can break away and become this. So in drawing these keys out, what I'm going to do, and I think I want to get rid of that yellow, because I'm just going to Z out of that yellow. I'm going to go to the very next keyframe. I don't think I need to turn my onion skin on because the drawing that I did was very, very close to this. But what I want to do is I want to figure out what the next keyframe is going to be like. So let me bring back my color here. I want the keys. Okay, there we go. So one thing that let's see if we can pull something from. Oh yeah, by the way, for all of you animation people, the SIFA, San Francisco Association Society International Film and Animation is having a event on the 17th at 5:30 p.m. Where they're having a question and answer with Glenn and a whole bunch of other people that worked on Over the Moon. So if you're interested, I'm just going to put that in the chat area of our Zoom. So if you're interested, that's just the entry form. All right, so what I was doing before I interrupted myself was I wanted to take a look at some of the smoke that I pinned the other day. So I liked this one. So I'm just gonna, and this one was kind of watery. So this is looking like sharp water. You can see that there's a guy or a gal holding a hose. And so there is directions for this fluid, but I'm not quite sure it's looking like water. I like it, but I like this. I like this little wispy thing here. I like the little idea of it going from whiter to darker. You know, and use your own discretion about whether you use the skull in there if you want. And so now it's not going to give me exactly what I want because it's referencing all the other Harry Potter stuff. So let me go backwards. One of the things that we didn't get a real big chance, and I'll probably never truly address this in this effects class, is the idea of vectors. So that if this is a smoke coming off a volcano here, that the main direction is up, and you can see that these two vector arrows are pointing up. The smoke is rising, but as it rises, the exterior forces make a roll over to the right. So these are moving clockwise. To the left, the air is putting up a resistance, so these are rolling to the left. And this just takes a phenomenal amount of time. If you were going to animate a shot like this, like let's just say that in your volcano, you wanted this level of details and you wanted 12, 18 drawings or whatever you'd like, it's going to take you probably about 26 to 30 hours to do 12 or 16 drawings like this in order to get it really, really done in terms of 2D animation. It's just too extensive. What I'm looking for is this little wispy smoke stuff like this. So I want to combine this with the first, with this little guy coming out of the cauldron here. But let's see if we could get a good reference on this, a good cross reference on this. And no, it's just going to bring up a bunch of other illustrations. So I like what I've got here. I'm just going to pull a couple of things into my mind's eye. And the first is, again, we're just kind of looking at the idea of this whole illustration coming from the idea that you got this wispy smoke kind of thing working here in the very middle. There's some lightning stuff. There's some other smoke here. This guy's working on a linear line. Here's our wispy smoke again. You know, there's some good inside and outside curves. This series of smoke here is more like steam coming off a cauldron because it's dissipating. And then this example here, the artist is explaining that it doesn't just roll over. So like this one here, this smoke isn't just rolling clockwise and counterclockwise on the perimeters, on the edges of it, that there's actually more of a circular motion inside it. You can do anything you want. You know, this one's showing you that there's a motion for the clouds that are actually rolling over each other. I wonder if I can get to it really fast. There was a really great drawing of smoke that went off into the distance. Let me see if I can pull it really quickly. It might get it for doing this one. I'm going to open this in a new tab. And this was like one of the first things that I learned how to do smoke on, and I'm not seeing a good example of it. So this one here, it's showing you that there's a rotation of the clouds on the exterior. So that's moving clockwise and counterclockwise. Let me see if I can find. Yeah, I'm getting a little obscure here. You know, this is a really good example of it where there's a fireball. And so the main motion of this meteorite, which is basically the Iron Giant falling to the earth, is moving to the left. It's moving down and to the left. But the smoke is moving up and to the right. So they're moving in two completely different directions. And once again, that is just adding another bit of challenge to what we're doing. But what I want to do is I want to go back here, and I want to just put this in my eye. I like this little flip over. This looks like it's actually a photograph, something actually real, some blue smoke, maybe photoshopped. And then I like this little squiggle, and I like, where's the third one? I'm going to bring this one. Yeah, because I like this and I like this. So I can just tab over to that. I think you have to be careful with stuff like this because that particular drawing, and now I just lost it. Nope, my mouse is just jumping around here. Hold on 1 second. So what I wanted to say was just, well, this is a really good description of how the air forces work with this cloud. This is more like a bomb explosion on that one. But the one that I was just looking at, I don't see it now. Hold on, it just kind of went away from me. So what I was gonna, here it is. So what I wanted to say about an example like this where it just says sketches and smoke is that you just have to be careful because for the most part, all of these drawings and images here are showing up on your board as being correctly oriented, but this one looks like it might be sideways. This one looks like it, you don't want to like grab that in your eye and start drawing things because then your keyframes are going to look a little weird. This is interesting. So this has a thing of the smoke dissipating on it, right? And you're looking at it, is it referenced from anything? It goes from a very spindly shape to more sharp. That's interesting. And again, I like this one. Although I don't know why it got reoriented with this board. Okay, so back over to Toon Boom. And now what I want to do is, and I'm still working with the same color here. I want to work out just what's going to happen to this smoke. I think that this should go away. This should dissipate. And the basic distance is, or the direction is that whatever is burning is coming up through the center of this cauldron and it's going up and to the right. It's just got a general arc like that on it. And without really interfering with this one, I can get all of this to dissipate. So let's just take this little spiral, this inner spiral right here, and just kind of key it out so that I'm going to keep just this little loop of the spiral. And then there's another fat part right there. So I'm just going to kind of keep it just as like a little circle. This guy has got a whole bunch of particulates in there. So I'm going to just bring it up and find a nice shape for it. And then this guy is going to be in 2 parts. This is an interior curve. If I'm looking at the direction below it, but it's an exterior curve if I don't like that little thing I just did right there. Hold on a second. All right, so I'm going to bring this one back as just a spindle. And then this is an outside curve if I consider the trajectory here. And so going up, I'm going to just that. Now this, I see this little rotation, and I've already got that shape over here. So I don't think I need anything more than to concentrate on this shape. And so up about the same distance, I'm just going to draw the little bits of smoke. This is thin enough that it can just go away. This little arc right here can just be a line just for contrast, continuity. All right, and then this shape right here. So I see like a little M shape. So I'm going to just kind of take it easy on myself and bring that M shape up and let it expand maybe just a little bit. So that this arc right here is now there. So I'm going to spin it around, and this is going to go the other way. All right, so this guy is an open circle. Let me go backwards to keyframe. And I didn't draw this, but I maybe decide to draw like a little circular bit here. If I go to the next keyframe, I can see that I've indicated it here just a little bit. If I go backwards, you know, I've got a couple of them. How many? Let's if I put one right here, and I go to the next keyframe, it can expand maybe and show up about right there. All right, so that is, and I want to connect this too. So this M shape has got to connect to this. And if I could make all of this go away for just a moment, I want to look back at this curve right there. So I want to connect this with the same kind of curve. Doesn't have to touch. All I'm going to do is just kind of allude to it. So that is what I would consider moving in from one key to the next, from one key to the next, right? Okay, so now what I want to do is, and remember that Toon Boom is really great about using a momentary selection tool, is I'm going to copy everything from my first frame, and I'm just going to paste it on the third keyframe. So now I've got one keyframe, the second keyframe, and the third keyframe. So now I just want to think about timing. So I'm just going to put this out on 8s, just to start with. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And this should be 24. It's a 23. So let me just count my frames. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So this one needs another frame. This should be 24. Okay, so now I've got 3 keyframes. Basically, what you could have done is you could have just drawn the same keyframe, and like in 2D animation, we would just copy it. So we want to animate from this keyframe into this next keyframe. And so, like I said, let me see if I can find this button for you in the pull down. In the middle of these 2 drawings, on drawing number 5, I'm going to insert a blank drawing. So now there's a blank drawing. I'm going to turn my onion skin on, and I'm going to make sure that I can see the drawing I'm working on, and the one that was before it, and the one that is after it. There we go. Okay, good. So there's a couple of things to consider here. One is that you may not want to repeat this very first frame here, but you may want to animate into it. So I'll explain what I mean here in a moment. So once again, I'm looking for create empty drawing. So that might be insert, There's got to be a longer way to do it. In drawing, create empty drawing. So you don't always have to use the button. You don't always need to use the keyboard shortcut, which is 3 characters long. Create empty drawing. So that's how we got to this. All right, so continuing with the same key color there. And now what we're going to do is we're just going to zoom in on this. And I'm going to rotate it. Let's move back a little bit. There we go. All right, so one of the things I'm not convinced about is that I accidentally drew this line. So I got this line right here that is just misbehaving. It's right on top of that line. If you remember back from our first day of Pixie Dust, it's like never ever draw in the exact same place because then your animation will stall. So I'm just going to redo that one just a little bit. And I'm looking for a good place to draw this shape. All right, now it goes to the right, and now it goes up. And then it kind of mimics the thing on the bottom. All right, that should be better. Now let's go back to our open drawing here. And it is crossing over there a little bit, but it's not quite so bad. So what we're going to do is a straight in between. So, and I remember that this is the first node I'm working with right here, and it's moving to there. So I'm just going to go right in the middle of those 2 places. I'm going to mimic a couple of shapes. I'm going to come into this open space right here between these 2 lines. And now I'm going to cut right in between the top of keyframe number 1 and the top of keyframe number 2. That'll in between it. All right, so this little bit is going to go up there in a moment, but let's do this interior curve right here. This interior curve animates into this shape right there. So I'm going to go about halfway, and again, my pencil is searching for a place where there's an open area so that I'm not going on top of any of the other lines. All right, so let me keep track. So now I want to do the upper part, which is going to move into this shape right here. So I'm going to cross over and then just kind of go like that. Now let's do this line. So this line is going to do the same thing. We're going to go right up the middle. And this outside curve is becoming an inside curve. We also have to kind of make it look like it belongs to this piece of smoke without somebody's trying to call me. Nope. All right, so yeah, I want to pull back on this just a little bit. So what we're doing right now is we're looking for, see this little M shape right here? That came from here. So we want to animate that little M shape. All right, so now this red exterior curve is going to become this green one up here. So let's just go right across and connect it. And then it's spindly, it's getting thinner, so go ahead and bring it down. So that's a pretty break of departure about moving left and right. So let's rethink this just a little bit. And the reason why I did that is because the red shape is our first shape, and then we're going upwards. So this red node wants to go into this darker green node. I think it's okay to put it right here. So it was just a little too far to the right when I first had it. All right, so it's becoming spindly, and if I put 3 lines on top of each other here, you'll never see them. So let's just put it right in the middle there, and now let's continue working upwards. This line animated into this one. See how I did that? Right there. And so, and then there's a little outside curve, and if I just hinted at connecting it right here, I should be okay. And I'm just going to leave it there for just a moment. This shape, the red shape, became this green shape right there. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to follow this exterior curve, which is okay. And I'm going to let that break apart right there, because this is it's gonna end up becoming in the next couple of keyframes, it's gonna be becoming this little swirl here. Okay, so now let's just continue. Remember what we were doing. This shape right here, it went away. So right now, I think that what we can do is we're gonna just hint at it going away. So that shape right here is this little backwards C shape. And the spiral, which became these pieces here, was actually technically breaking apart. So we're just going to draw that little clump right there. This is actually outside, so so this form right here, this little L shape, is gonna be like this. And then this whole thing, this whole upper upside down U, just becomes that little shape right there. So we're just going to do that. All right, now let's continue working on this. This C shape animates into that C shape. So we're just going to borrow that shape right there. This big clump turns into these two little ones. So right about halfway, we're just going to continue letting them be connected. And you can see that they want to connect to this little spindle part here. So let's give some volume. And because it breaks away, let's let it break apart and let it do that. All right, so then this shape animates into that one. And you can see that it wants to connect right here. So point at it and let it just kind of go away. All right, so now we just have to figure out where this part goes to. This went to there, okay. So I think what we can do is just let this line come up and dissipate. Now I'm gonna bring this back out here, and I'm gonna see what it looks like just going back and forth between the two keyframes. All right, so the first thing I'm gonna do on this keyframe is bring up that little circular part of smoke. We're gonna let this go into this position and dissipate. All right, you see how this is working, everybody? Does anybody have any questions? So I'm just going backwards, forwards, backwards, forwards. And then because I'm going forwards, I might want this part to just be a little spindly right there. We're losing this little S shape. So what we can do is we can just let it ride right here. Okay, so now we want, so this right here is, oh no, that's strange. So this is the first drawing, second drawing. Okay, so what we're gonna do right now is I'm gonna take this drawing, which is a repeat of the very first drawing, and I'm gonna limit it to just one frame, which will remind me that we're just using it for placement. And what I mean by that is that if I just go between the first and the last frame, there's not gonna be any movement because we just copy and pasted it. Let's consider this to be on 8. So let's just drop a couple extra frames here. 6, 7, 8. 5, 6, 7, 8. Now we've got 3 keyframes. We've got keyframe 1, keyframe 9, and keyframe 17. All right, it's looking pretty good. So then what we need to do is go from this one which is our third keyframe, back into this one, which we can either see with our onion skin, or because I copied it pretty well from my sketch, I can just leave it sit there. But now let's just go from this one back into this first keyframe here, and we should be all set. Now this is going to take just a little bit of thinking here, because we need to get this shape. We are on 8s, and so this little clumpy thing right here can become this, but it might make more sense if we pull it out of this center here. All right, so having said that, we're going to go here. We're going to now I forgot where that. I forgot where that long form is. So let's just use the button. Empty keyframe. Okay, there we go. So I need my onion skin back on. All right, so we're going from red technically into the green. And in this situation right here, it's actually kind of nice because the green is not going to be our crazy green. You know, that's kind of one of the reasons why I picked that green right there. All right, so just seeing the amount of volume that we've got in this little snaky part right here, this little snaky part right here has got to turn into this and this in order for this to work correctly. And the reason why I said that is because there's a counterclockwise rotation here and a clockwise rotation here. So we may need 2 breakdown drawings to get from this red into the green. So, but let's just do one of them right now. So this area here is leading, this little S shape right here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring it about halfway out, and I'm just going to sketch it. I'm looking at this whole shape here and this shape, and I'm kind of in between them in my eye. So I'm just going to go like this. Now I don't need to copy the whole thing. All I need to do is get it there, and I'm realizing that I'm going to need another keyframe right here. So if I can get this red to animate into this green, I will be okay. So this is going to become that whole thing. It is in front of the one on the left just a little bit. So this part right here, this little left hump right here can be about right here now, and I'm just going to do the same kind of thing where I just bring it up just like that. So then our next breakdown is going to be rather easy. All right, so then we're just going to go, and this little clump is going to animate into this shape right there. Again, so I'm making sure that I'm not drawing lines that are right on top of each other. I know that there's going to be another drawing between the drawing I'm doing now and the darker green one. So I'm going to favor the red position here. And what I mean by that is I'm just going to kind of give it a third. I'm not going to draw right in the middle of it. I'm going to favor the red drawing. So same thing with this. I'm going to favor the red drawing. I'm going to come up. So then I'm looking at this little shape right here, which is going to animate up to about right here. All right, and this green clump is going into that red one. So I'm going to favor the green position. Sorry, favoring the red position. This is new. Let me go backwards a keyframe. I'm on frame 21 right now. Yeah, so this becomes new. This green little puff is going to need to come from somewhere. So I'm just going to put it there. All right. All right, so we have to connect a couple of lines here. These two are looking pretty good, where I can just cut inside and connect. This part I can bring right into the center core, and I can connect it. We'll see how that works. I might have to renegotiate that just a little bit. All right, now remember, we're going from the red into the green. So these guys need to completely dissipate. This can just go here. This part right here can just turn over. One of the things that you don't want to do is make everything go away at the exact same time. Pixie dust is different. Pixie dust, there's so much happening on the screen, you'll never see it. But with smoke like this, it's working on 8s and 12s and 16s and stuff. You have 5, 6, 8 little parts right here, and you may not want them all to go away at the same time. This piece is pretty remarkable as a shape, and so going the same kind of distance, we're just going to bring that little part out and make it go away. This is the combination of those two. This thing right here can just be a line, a really thin line right there. Let that one go away. All right, so this red shape going to that one, and then these guys can just be kind of, now remember I was going to do like a whole lecture on randomization here. We don't quite need to do that. You know, this is the idea of how to get dispersion. You all picked up on that from as early as our pixie dust. Okay, so let me think about this for just a second. We go backwards a keyframe, forwards a keyframe. I'm sorry, forwards a keyframe, backwards, forwards. All right, so there's something missing. This little U shape right here needs to be accounted for in this keyframe. So I can see that there's something here. So let's just kind of in between it, let's just give ourselves a little S shape and go backwards a keyframe. That should be okay. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to put this on 8s. I'm going to put this on 8s, and realizing that we probably need one more drawing between this one and the final drawing, which you can see is right there. So let's just take a look at our keys as we have them. This is key number 1. The green now is key number 9. This is 17. And this is 25. And we need to get from, let's go backwards just to check this. Yeah, we need one more key drawing between this drawing number 25 to get it to loop properly. Now remember, if I was doing this in straight ahead animation, I would just do straight ahead. I would just draw the dickens out of this. I would just have fun with all the new shapes. But because this is a 225 game class, I do want this to loop. So I'm going to put another blank drawing here. And now all I've got to do is let's start with this. I'm going to get this shape to become this little spiral right here. And it's going to be about halfway. So this is the center of it. And that's the center of this spiral. See what I'm doing? That's the center point. That's a center point. So right here is a center point. And I'm just going to kind of draw part of a spiral. Now I'm going to get this upper loop here. Now, if I take my eraser and just pull back on this a little bit, then what will happen is that this edge, this very sharp point, will appear to animate into this position and then into this position, and definitely give the appearance of counterclockwise motion. The same thing with this one. Center point is here, center point is there. And I'm going to erase those two little dots because I don't want them. And so I'm going to rotate around this point right there. It's just moving up to the right. And I'm just going to draw like this. That's the inner line. This is the outer line. And now I've got to contend with this shape right here, this little whoop-de-doopy sloppy red line is going to become, let's think about this for just a moment. Yeah, this little red line here, it's going to become all of this. So something was burning really intensely, and I'm going to have to cross over it and bring it all the way up and connect. All right, same thing here. I'm just going to rough that in. So this isn't moving, it's not rotating as much. So you can see this little tip, this little sharp point is just hanging out there, and it's still in the same basic orientation. So one thing that I could do is I could erase it about halfway. And so what this will do is this will make it look like it went about halfway through the rotation and then halfway through the rotation again. If I need to, it's becoming a lot more obvious that it's very easy to do a new drawing here and a new drawing here if I need it. But let's just finish this one. So this should be just a straight in between. All right, we still have these little clumps to figure out here. There's one right there that's an S shape. All right, let's see what we've got. I'm going to add 4 more frames to this keyframe. 1, 2, 3, 4. Oops, sorry. 1, 2, 3, 4. And 1, 2, 3, 4. Now we're just going to use our playback, our key, our G key. Let me turn off the onion skin to get a better look at just your singular lines. All right, so I'm just going to watch it. I think it's working okay. Right now I've got 1 frame for this last keyframe that we used. We didn't really need it. It is frame 41. So if I start at frame 1 and stop at frame 40, it's not going to matter because it's a repeat of drawing number 1. So let's see what this looks like at speed. All right, so there's still little puffs of smoke that need to be followed through on the left, on the top, and on the bottom of this. But for the most part, I've given you all a really good example of how you work with keys and going from just one drawing and animating animating 40 frames. We've just got 5 keys on 8s right now. I know, and from my description of this, it would be very easy to just go anywhere between this drawing and this drawing and just in between it. The in between is actually very easy at this point. So I could break this down and make it very smooth on 4s and having a 40 frame cycle. So let me just do this. All right, does anyone have any questions about that? I just gave you an hour demonstration on how to work with keys. Anybody?
No questions. It just seems like it's more thought heavy. Like we have to plan a lot more and think about what leads to the next keyframe, rather than just hoping it works with straight ahead.
I mean,
hoping it works doesn't always work.
Right.
If you're looking at that tornado, and you know that the tornado is going to go 1 keyframe to the right, another keyframe to the right, and then let's go back and then to the center, and then one keyframe to the left, and two keyframes to the left. You've got a total of 8 drawings to get that whole thing working. You know, so that's another way of doing keyframes in reciprocal motion. This one was just a little bit more organic because our wispy smoke was just coming from either my own imagination or from some reference we found online. And it can be done. You just have to animate into and out of that wispy smoke position. So one option right now, I believe this is like, hold on one second, everybody. Sorry, everybody. It doesn't affect this class, but sometimes I do have office hours on Thursday and Friday, and I have to go to Houston because my brother is sick. And so my phone keeps popping, and I just got a DMV notification. Tell those people to stop calling me. All right, so really at this point in week 11, I usually reserve this for just working and letting you doing whatever you're doing. So what I'm going to do is I have a recording stopped, I think. No? Finish those other parts right there. Oops. All right, so in this, what I'm going to do is I want to see something. One of the options that you all have to worry about here is that you would never want the bottom of the smoke here to move around, to wiggle around. So the main option would be is to draw this volcano as an overlay, and for whatever it's worth, here's how that works. In the world of animation, the thing that's on the very top is called the overlay. So the camera's up here. You know, in a traditional down shooter mode, whatever's on top is the overlay. Then you can have principal animation. It doesn't have to be in level A or level B or level C. If it was level M, it was Mickey Mouse. If it was B, it was Bugs Bunny. Often Bugs Bunny was on top of everything because he was Dove Gray 20, and he was a very light color. So if there are any other cells, it would make his color change radically if he moved from level 1 to level 2. So from all of the notes that I have out there in the whole big bad wide old world, Bugs Bunny was always on top. Then you have an overlay, underlay, and often these aren't moving. These overlay, underlay are not moving, right? They're static. And so this overlay, underlay might be this mountain back here that's going to cover up this smoke. All right, then you continue with your levels going down. F and X were usually reserved for effects levels. Often they were on top too because they were white. And I'm just doing this in this kind of order. And then you have underlay, which is under all of this stack. And then there's one more. What is it? Background.
Oh.
So that's how your stack works. OL, animation layers, OL, UL, more animation layers, UL, and then your background. Sometimes your background was just a color card. And so these two are often interchanged, either a regular high detail drawn background or a color card or a color card that had a gradient on it or something like that. So for whatever it's worth, that's how this worked. It's how it still works. It's anything on top is how you see it. If it's in Toon Boom here, whatever's on top is what you see. If it's in After Effects, whatever's on top is what Photoshop. Whatever's on the top layers is resides over it. All right, so now that I've got this thing penned in here pretty well, I'm going to just look at this and I'm going to say this line right here needs to go away. So, so I just cut through that and it's cutting through too much. So I'm just going to erase it. And I'm going to go back to my key green. And actually, I want to zero out of this. So let's Shift M. Come on, Toon Boom. There we go. Okay, so what I wanted is a reason why I wanted to do this was I wanted to make sure the orientation of this paint to line was actually correct. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to extend this down a little bit. I'm going to extend this down a little bit until it's almost even. And then I'm just going to put a paint to line like that. Now I'm going to see if I can cut through this. Good. So I'm just going to copy this and I'm going to go to the next keyframe and paste it. Next keyframe, I got to erase this first. Paste it. Then I got to connect it. Next keyframe, I got to erase this. Paste it and connect it. Next keyframe, paste and connect. And I think that was the last one. Okay, so this one is a copy of the first one. We're not going to really need this one. We're just using it to do in between. So I'm going to put a little X there to remind myself that we're not using this keyframe. By the way, there are still some old-fashioned 2D animators out there who will do that one thing where they draw the keyframe of a walk cycle, and this is the neutral contact position, you know, and then they'll do the down position, and then they'll do the up position. And a typical walk cycle works on an oscillation where it goes neutral, down, passing, and up. So you only need 4 key positions to animate a walk cycle. If anybody ever knows this, animators, anybody know this?
Yep.
So this
Only need a
is
few.
a typical way of planning a walk cycle. Neutral, down, passing, and up are your 4 key positions. And then you need to copy and paste those again because this is just the left leg and then you need the right leg out here. But one way that Flash animators were working is that they would take this first neutral key and they would place it here in the timeline so that when the Flash was doing the in-between, it would make up all these in-betweens correctly because it had something to animate into. That's what this is. And then you make this keyframe go away. You cut it right there. And then your more deft animators will copy all this stuff, paste it over here, and then switch the legs for the right. There, I've just given you way too much information. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to, everything's on 8s right now. Let's just take a look at this. All right, so this little guy needs to go up into here. Backwards. I'm going to follow this one. It's there, good. I'm going to go backwards. So this is key number 1, key number 2, key number 3. This one is in the wrong place. This one right here, watch. It's right here, and then it's right there, and then it's right there. That's too close. So I'm going to take this and I'm going to move it up to about right here. And I got to make sure that the next keyframe is in betweening it. So let's turn our onion skin back on. And I want to open this up because now our keyframes are pretty far apart. Yeah, so they're on top of each other now. I got to fix that. See what I mean? This one right here. I'm going to the next keyframe and it's already there. So I'm going to go backwards. We have to fix this little puff of smoke here. So I have it going out here. Let's bring it backwards just a little bit. And again, if you're thinking technically, this is the act of animating straight ahead. And I wouldn't do this if I were you, because you can confuse yourself like crazy. If I were you, I would give yourself the arc or a background layer and track it to make sure you're getting it right. I think I did it right. Let me just double check. All right, so I have a little bit on the top to fix right here. This little puff goes to here, and then it's on top of each other again. So I have to make this go away and continue moving it out here. One thing that I might want to consider though is that this puff on frame number 1, it's breaking apart, and so I might want to just indicate that just a little bit right there. So, and then it appears to go backwards, so I have to kill this one, and if I want it to continue out, then I'm going to have it dissipate right there. So this is the last time I'm going to draw that little puff. And let's see how that looks now. I'm just going to look at just that little puff of smoke. So that one appears to cross over. It's just that one little part there. If I wanted to make it so that I remembered that it crossed over, I would say these two are going to cross over, and there's still going to be two. One's going to be really little. So, and so if I needed to do a breakdown drawing in between those, which I probably will, more than likely what I'll do is that'll catch my eye, that this little puff goes to the green one, and then it crosses over. So on this drawing, which will end up, this keyframe, which will probably end up being keyframe 21, will probably be right on top of that little outside C shape right there. All right, I think it's working okay. Let me just take a look at it. It's on 8s right now. I want to make it at least 4s. All right, so let us just do exactly what we had done before on frame 5. I'm going to insert an empty drawing. Let me find that long ways here. It's one of those things where you don't use the pull-down menu, so you have no idea where it is. That's kind of what took me forever about getting things to move on an in-between, because I just always did it linearly. Okay, so I don't know where I put it. Animation. All right, animation, cell, insert blank cell. Oh, nope, that's not the right one. That's completely empty right there, and it moved everything, so that's not what I want. I'm just going to use this one. All right, so once again, now I'm going to put this on 4s. Oh, you know what I'm going to do right now? I think it's still on my clipboard. I'm going to paste it. Yeah, so this is still on my keyboard. I am going to create empty drawings on all of the now new breakdown positions. So that should be empty. This should be empty. This should be empty. This should be empty. Okay, good. So now what I'm going to do is paste that paint to line into all of our new keyframes. All right, let's just play it to make sure I didn't miss anything. All right, so you can see how that's working. So this is a paint to line right here. If I was going to try to, and in the 2D world, we don't need to do this anymore. But if for some reason the production team had decided that we couldn't separate this volcano from the overlay or the underlay or the background, that I would have to do a paint to line, and that I would have to draw a very articulate line right here that matches the background perfectly, and then copy and paste each one of those lines. And that's called a paint, that's called a registration line, where if it was completely registered to that particle, that part of the background, whatever it is. But this is a paint to, so it can be just more mechanical. Often my coworkers were really sloppy with their paint to lines because they didn't care. And it was always me that had to go fix it. It was easier to fix it rather than get them to change it. All right, so let's just go through this. This is the next drawing. And I'm going to just with my pencil, my key color, this is already filled in. As soon as I start drawing, this red selection line will go away. So I'm going to go, hold on. I'm going to go right in between those two shapes. I'm going to rotate just a little bit. All right, this is an in between outside shape right down the middle. This puff should be appearing, I think. Red going into green. No, it's going to be up there. All right, so this little U shape is going right there. So I want U shape and then cut over and make sure that none of those lines touch each other. This ends up going over there. Oops, that'll kill all the motion. All right, so now this puff of smoke is going into the green one. So, and it's also dissipating a little bit and gaining another part. All right, so let's do the bottom part of the line. This little exterior node is right there. So I'm just going to cut right through it and I bend back and then right down the middle. All right, this C shape is going into this shape. So right and connect it. This red is going into the green, that's easy. Rotate it just a little bit. All right, red going into green, red going into green, red right down the middle and a little swerve and connect it. Red going into green. Red going into green. Red going into green. All right, so remember we did this part first here. So that's crossing over each other. I don't like that line. Hold on a second. Let's just do this in parts. So this shape is moving into that green. The center points, let's start with the center point again. Center point here. So I'm going to draw, and you have to make sure it's not touching anything. So I'm going to draw the spiral. And then I'm going to look at that shape, and this has to come up so that it maintains the direction. That's a very important thing there, that this point of this smoke is moving from there in a straight line. Now I'm going to do the interior and then the exterior, that little bit of smoke. And then this is the back side of the red moving into this green. So I think now we can connect them. And these two, let's see, let's just try to connect it. I think that I'm going to erase this. And this overall shape right here is up here now. So I'm going to direct it to be like this. And I'm just going to let it hang out there. I don't want to connect it right now. But this part now needs to be connected. So Let's figure out where this shape right here, this red shape going into the green, red going into green. So I got this. So what I want to do is I want to pull this, and I'm going to go this little shape right here, this red, it's going to go all the way up here. So I just want to very carefully connect those two shapes. And again, there's going to be like a little Y shape here because this is breaking off, becoming the second spiral. All right. Point to point, there's the middle. And I'm in between this line and this line. This line and this line. And then the center point is going to curl over. Now I want to do the inside of that line. All right, and then this should be easy. This is just crossing over right there. I don't like that little part. I'm going to fix the end of that. There is a appreciable difference between doing keys that are just a little messy and then doing breakdown drawings like this, which have to be a bit more precise. Backwards, forwards, backwards, forwards, forwards. We turn onion skin off. Key number 1, 5, 9. And that's a blank drawing. So I'm just going to keep continuing to do this. And my onion skin is too far. I only want the drawing before and the drawing after. I don't want to be too confused. All right. Let's get back on the right drawing here. Let's go back to the frame 1. All right, here's where we are. We are in frame 13. I'm going to lose my orientation for this outer node if I'm not careful here. So that's where I want to start. I want this outer node right there. I'm just doing a straight in between. So I'm going from this outer node to this outer node. So that has to be halfway. So my halfway point is here. I'm going to cut through the bottom and go right down the middle of those two connections, like that. This whole shape is going over to here, right down the middle of those two lines as an in-between. All right, and then this little red part right here is moving into this green shape here. So I'm going to go about halfway between them, like that. Red going into green, so that's an easy low-hanging fruit right there. Red going into green. All right, so this red node right there is animating into this green shape right there. So I want right in between them, cross over the lines, connect it. These two lines are getting right on top of each other. That's okay for right now. This line right here is, oh no, wait, I'm confusing myself. Let's do this one. Red going into green, red going into green. I'm not getting my orientation correctly. Hold on one second. red going into green. So this red right here is going into that green right there. I might have drawn it a little fat, but that's okay. All right, then this is the new one, red going into green. So we need to create the new little spindle right there. All right, red going into green. So red completely dissipating. We might need to add a little bit more right there. The center point, red going into green, okay. This one, this shape right here going into green. So bring it down first and then loop it up and then just let it linger right there. All right, red going into green, and just do this shape right here. Remember that this shape right here is going into nothing, which is about right there. And so that's why I brought it right to this point. It's dissipating, so just let it live right there. This red goes into, this whole red goes into this shape right there. And so this is a good beefy medium-sized shape. And up here it's just a circle, so that's why I gave it a little bit more. Red going into green, so I could probably hook this a little bit more so it still looks like a spiral. All right, let's zero out of this and go back to our first keyframe and see how it looks. It's moving correctly. All right, let's go to the next blank breakdown draw. It technically is a blank. It technically is a breakdown drawing. All right, here's the next blank one. All right, again, we go with this node right there. This node is moving into this position. And you want to make it graphic so that your eye and your hand coordination is never confused. Right down the middle, connected. This little outside curve is going into this double outside curve here. So give it a little wiggle and then right connect it to your paint 2 line. All right, so this is that little M shape we talked about here. We are on frame 21. We need to create both of these without making it look either obnoxious or incorrect. So red going into green, red going into green. So this little shape right here, it's maybe too far away to become this. So let's pick this one. The danger would be is that we're going to run into the red going into green little S shape that we've created here. But that's okay. We're going to have to get this red line to come up. Oops, hold on. Up and start to curl over just a little bit. I think that should be enough right there. All right, same thing. Red going into green. So take this little outside curve and bring it up, and that might be all we need right there. And then just connect them. All right, so this, oh no, hold on a second. I think I got this part backwards here. It's good to make mistakes because then you can know how to fix them. Now, the reason that I said that is because red is going into green. So this node is going into this one. So in order to do that, I got to draw it this way. And that would have caused this to go backwards. Red going into green, red going into the green. Red going into the green. All right, let's rotate our canvas just a little bit. All right, red going into green, it's easy for here. Red going into green here. Could probably connect those if you wanted. Red going into green, so I've got 3 reds going into green. This one's just gonna go here. Yeah, that'll kill that motion, but I'm feeling aggressive right now. Okay, red going into green, red going into green, red, red, red. I think we got most of it. I think we have one more blank drawing here and one more there. So let's do 2 more. All right, so just remember red goes into green. So if I was in between this, it would go backwards here. So I'm gonna actually play this to make sure it's not apparently going backwards just already. So yeah, I have to be careful about this drawing here. I'm gonna check it by going backwards, keyframe to this one, backwards to this one. All right, so I'm gonna erase this little scribble I made. Red goes into green. So if I wanted to do this correctly, this little outside curve has to become this whole squiggle. So I'm in between the mass here. Red goes into green. And if I did it this way, it would be going backwards. Red goes into green. So I'm going to do this one. All right, so this, the center point, center point, center point. There's my new center point. Command Z twice. Talk about right there. And I'm going to do my spiral. Now I left room so I could do the inside part of it. All right, red goes into green. Red goes into green. Let me see if I can erase that little part right there. My eraser is a little too fat. Red goes into green. Okay. Center point, center point, center point, center point. Start here, center point right there. It's going around clockwise now. So this point is going to go all the way up to there. So I'm going to start here. Red goes into green. This is a little becoming a fluffier, bigger part. Red. Now this is funny, this red stuff doesn't go anywhere here. That means if I dissipate this part and this part and all of these shapes right here, they will all disappear at the same time. So this is a bigger part. So I'm just going to draw one little wisp and one little dot up here. These are 3, so I'm just going to go into 1 and call it a day. Red goes into green. Red is going into green right here. Connect these guys. Connect this one. Red goes into green. Red, this is where it crosses over here. Red goes into green. So let's put the shapes right there. All right, and then let's just play this. All right. I think I have one more. This is a keyframe. This is my next breakdown drawing that I just did. I need to do this one. So red goes into green. So this red is the last keyframe. Actually, it's a breakdown because this was the keyframe that we had done, the green one, and then this one was the very last one. And so what we're going to end up doing is we're going to do a couple of things. I'm going to go backwards a couple of keyframes and look at all this dissipation stuff up here, because I have a feeling that with this number of keyframes, I can do something fun, which is let the, I mean, there's a lot of stuff out there. You know, there's a lot of smoky bits part out there. And if you're playing along or still paying attention, then one thing I can do is I can animate them straight ahead, right? So I'll continue to animate them like right here. This is the second to the last keyframe. So this is a breakdown. And then this is another breakdown. I can animate them up here. And then I can animate them here as well. But that already starts the first keyframe. So I can let it loop on itself using the same drawings that I already have. Let me finish this last drawing and then I can show you. All right, so this should be fairly easy, red going into green. Be careful, you go backwards, right? Yeah, this part's gonna end up going backwards for one frame. Hopefully it won't be too obnoxious. So I'm gonna put like a little star right here because I just know that's going backwards. We'll have to see if I like it or not. Okay, center to center. And it's continuing. So the center is about right here. But if I draw it right there, it'll be right on top of this. So I'm going to come down a little bit. I'm going to favor the red position. And I'm going to start the spiral like this. Inside line. And then outside line. I don't like that one. I'm going to fix it. Because it's got to be a little more meaty right there. All right, still continuing. So I'm going to just bring it like that. Red going into green. So I'm just going to like that one. Give it a little volume. All right, center point to center point. Center point to center point right here. Same thing, if I draw it right there, it'll be right on top of everything. So I'm going to start in the middle of this line, draw the spiral. All right, red going into green. Still connecting down there. Red going into green, little S shape. This has got volume. And red going into green. It might go backwards in this whole section here. We'll have to take a look at it. All right, and then we are missing this. I can see that there's a little piece that wasn't accounted for there. I'm going to save this. And I'm going to shift out of it, and we're going to take a look at what it looks like just at speed. And it's looking pretty good on fours. It's looking pretty good on fours. If I wanted to be ominous, I could do a series of breakdowns again to make it smoother, and then put those on fours. But right now, let's take a look at the stuff that we can correct just a little bit. So we're gonna talk about that little bit that I just mentioned about carrying over the animation straight ahead through into the primary keyframe. All right, so what I'm going to do now is I think what I'm going to do, I'm going to limit my onion skin to the drawing that's before to just maybe just one frame of the keyframe before. I can't even see it. Let me do one more frame. Nope, one more frame. There, that one. So that makes it nice. That's my first keyframe. What it's doing is it's showing me my next one. So, and this one was already approved by me. It was right from the sketch. These all have keys, so I'm going to just G this, and I'm going to look red going into green, red going into green. And I can see that I'm in trouble if I don't see the next lighter green up here, right? I can see that. So I'm okay right now with this particular keyframe. I'm going to come out of this just a little bit. And I think for me, at least, the ability to rotate your screen keeps the movement going up. Even though in our layout it's sideways, it keeps it going up. So next keyframe, red going into green, red going into green. Okay, that's okay. Red going into green. So I can see that this piece, this little U-shaped piece, is not present in the next drawing. So we're going to need to fix that one a little bit. Actually, at this point, I'm going to bring up my eraser tool and bring the eraser down a little bit in case I need it. 8.8 is fine. 8 is fine. Okay, back to pencil. All right, everything looks okay. By the way, I didn't catch any backwards motion there. I'll have to check that again. All right, keyframe, next keyframe. Red going into green. Okay, it looks okay. Red going into green. It looks okay. Close this shape. Next one, red going into green. Okay. All right, and I'm just checking where I am. I'm on frame 17. All right, it's looking a little sloppy up here. I can go back and fix it. Okay, next keyframe. And here's the more the wispy stuff. Red going into green. Okay, that looks fine. Okay. All right, now on frame 29. Red going into green. All right, so now on this one, let's go backwards a keyframe, forwards, backwards. So right here, this green, red going into green, and so I don't see it coming up. So like just from your handles on your onion skin, it goes from red to the one you're on to green. So red, green, but I don't see anything on the next keyframe. I can see this little darker green part for the S shape, but I don't see it on any of anything else up here. So on this drawing right here, red, right? No, I'm going backwards. Red going, I'm sorry, red going goes into green, and then there's nothing here on this one. So I'm gonna dissipate this one just a little bit. And I don't want them all to go away. All right, so I'm not getting a full effect on this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go backwards a couple keyframes to this one, and I'm going to let this one ride a little bit more. So red goes into my green that I've got right here. Now on this one, so this whole little clumpy bit from my main first key became like this little piece right here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give it just a little bit more meat. And this is a brand new shape, so I'm going to go backwards, and I'm going to just bolster this one out just a little bit. Now it's going to be not the easiest thing to fix, so I'm going to repair it in my mind, keeping my eye on it so that I can mimicking this shape, and go backwards another keyframe. It's here, but let me put it there. Now I'm going to go forwards in time, and this one. Okay, now this one, I'm going to let it linger right there. And that's okay for me. This is my second to last keyframe. So I'm going to let it be there. This is the very last breakdown, and I'm going to let it come up here. And I'm going to bring this one with it and this one. I'm going to bring all three of them with me. And I can see in my timeline that the very next drawing is a copy of the first keyframe. So I don't want to draw it here because I'm not going to use frame number 41. I'm going to hit that G key again to go to frame number 1. And now I can't see it. So let me think about this for just a minute. I think what I'm going to do is for this keyframe right here, I'm just going to take all 4 of these and I'm going to copy them and I'm going to paste them in place. And then I'm going to hit my control key again, and I'm just going to move those up. Whatever, because this is about the distance. We were working about 1/4 of an inch or so. And that's my first keyframe. So I just added those. Now I'm going to just deselect and I'm going to go to the next keyframe. And now I'm going to just draw 1 and 2. I'm going to let this one go to a dot. I'm going to go to the next keyframe. This is just going to disappear. This is going to be disappearing. And then this one will last for 2 more frames. All right, Shift M. Let's see how that looks. So what we're looking for now are 2 different things. What we are looking for is the dissipation of the smoke way out here, and whether this clumpy stuff, there should be a star still there, is moving backwards. And I see the star, but I don't think it's moving backwards. It's just not moving at all. It is moving backwards a little bit, right there, right there. So I would need to just tweak that little part right there. All right, hopefully that helps everybody to get an idea of how to do this with keys instead of just doing it straight ahead. Obviously, the green would have to be changed. All right. Didn't take too long, right? 45 minutes or so.
Yeah.
Doing things straight ahead is great. Doing it keyframe to keyframe is even better.
Now we have only 30 minutes.
So, and I know that that was not what you're adding to your tornado. Does anyone need any pointers for the tornado again?
I think I'm good.
Anybody? All right, we guys can go half an hour early. You can go get Jamba Juice. Get your
Woo!
latte or your iced tea or something like that.
I like how Jamba Juice is like the first thing that came to your mind.
That's because this little thing I found, this little card, and it was a gift for somebody. And I have to go over there to figure out if there's any money on it or not.
Ah.
All right, we'll see you next week, everybody.
Cool. Thank you. See you
More
next
work
week.
on your tornado. Work on your tornado.
Thank you for the input.
Cool.
Yeah.
Okay,
I
welcome.
have one question.
Yes.
Are you hosting any one-on-one meetings this week?
Well, I was going to try, except that I've got to go to Houston.
Oh, okay.
So if you need like one-on-one, the only day would be like Wednesday in the afternoon.
Wednesday afternoon. Oh, I have class at that time.
Yeah, or Wednesday at noon.
Mm-hmm.
Just email me at my Yahoo. Do you have my Yahoo?
I'm not sure.
Here, I'll put it in the chat.
All right.
WB_44. Just email me there, and I can Zoom you like Wednesday at noon. Something
All
like
right.
if you need.
All right. Thank you.
Okay, you're welcome. We'll see you next week.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.